In this episode of Investors and Operators, I am talking with Doug Locke, who is the CEO and co-founder of SSI Strategy. We met Doug through a project working with Amulet Capital. Amulet partnered with Doug and their team in 2020. And as we're on set with Doug, found out that there is a lot more to this story about the business and Doug's background, so we wanted to have him on the podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the future of consulting, the consulting athlete, the story of SSI, how it's grown, his thoughts on how maybe we can grow our business because we are in the consulting business, even though it's focused on marketing. And we're also going to talk a lot about comp models and how to incentivize amazing people to join you, to stay with you for the long run. So, Doug, can you give a little background on SSI? Just what is the business?
Sure. That was a good overview, by the way. And that's a lot to take down. Let's do it. And first, I want to let you know, Jordan, very impressed with your team. They did a great job when they came our way. So fantastic. Sure. So
thank you.
The business. Yeah, we started with a spin on supporting biotech and the larger pharmaceutical industry in life sciences in total with a consultative athlete and a practitioner. Like the notionality being, take some technical expertise, mash it up with some business process acumen, maybe some agility of thought, maybe some follow through after a meeting. You know how some of the technical roles, maybe the hard work post meeting is the tough stuff, the change management, the putting the deck together, the getting the thoughts organized, the Gantt charts, the dependencies. We thought if we mashed up technical expertise with business consultants in pseudo quasi employee settings, like transitional teams, early adopter teams, that we could make some hay and maybe do something the industry couldn't do itself. And we further had a little theory that there were build and operate principles that were not working well in the biotech setting. That is, companies were standing up these new, companies, assets, plans to go to market to serve a patient community. And they were manning it with people out of large pharma that hadn't yet built companies. So they were bringing in operate experienced people to build phases. So we thought another place, maybe with some agility, we could poke at it, maybe do a good job in partnership with those client organizations. So that was the basis for it.
And can you give us a high level on kind of where's the business at today? How many, people, size, shape, locations?
Sure. Yeah. We're about 300 people in the field. We support about 300 organizations a year. We just, surpassed that number for 24. We've got incredible relationships with a smaller set of that client base. But we're on about 5 continents and, banging at very complex, innovative modalities all over the world. In 2023, we supported about 30% of the launch products, which no one knows where we've had that reach. So we do a bad job of marketing. Maybe I should find someone that can help me.
I think we can help out.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, great things going on every day here. We have a few subcontractors that we leverage over and over again to deliver some of that value, but the majority are FTEs in United States, UK, Germany, and Sweden. That's kind of our HQs. So
let's talk about how you have scaled the business. I think it's been 12 years or so with growing the business. Can you kind of walk us through the different phases of how you have scaled and maybe some of the challenges that you have faced in scaling a consulting business?
Sure. Yeah. Initially, we started with experts alone. So, the stoic way of trying to support a consultancy in biotech or pharma business. And Jordan, I remember we had some medical doctors that would use all caps in their email responses back to the client. All sorts of crazy. So we were like, all right, this needs to change. We had the thesis of the consulting model. So at first it was like, hey, what areas of technical expertise can we break into? Like, what are some, high opportunity environments where pharma or biotech was struggling? And it started as pharma. So we were in bigger shops initially, like medical affairs and safety. Two functions that are known to be, one is like license to operate. You need to provide safety, patient safety, and worry about, safety signaling. The other is getting information out to the market so that, the physician community can be aware of a new drug. And I'm oversimplifying, but we thought this consultative expert model could play in those areas. So that was our first go to market. But to answer your question,
So basically, highly experienced, high paid talent, outsourced consultative. That was like the initial model.
The initial struggling model. Yeah. Yeah. We were banging because of those caps issues and other idiosyncratic stuff that comes with, really strong technical experts. And that's not to say there are not some very adroit technical experts on change management and business principles, but, offering that as a consultant, we didn't find a lot of that, that talent that was that broad in the markets we were exposed to at that time with limited draw. We were a small little entity. Anyway, we started like iterations of getting better at this. Started plugging in the business consultants. That was probably our first, watershed moment of, hey, we really have something here. Where we started including a business consultant with a safety expert, a business consultant with a medical affairs lead. And suddenly we were out producing, or at least exceeding expectations in these various client settings. And that allowed us to scale those two functions up. But to answer your question, we always had on the board about 5 or 6, like North Star, 2 or 3 year out. Where can we pivot if the consulting athlete is the core of extensibility in the business setting, and the technical expert is the asset that we're going to leverage to offer something special. Yeah. And the synergy is how these quasi employee settings where we can do better than the industry does by itself, just by hiring the technical expertise. There were concentric circles that formed, like it's a no-brainer that we should spin into clinical. There are other translational functions that struggle. And we then tested moving from big pharma, the mid-market, and eventually to what's more of our home now, the biotech community, where these build and operate principles are truly on display every day, Jordan. So
yeah,
and that's where we are today. That journey took a bit, and private equity did help us.
And so you partnered with Amulet in 2020. Just kind of where was the business at? Where were you at in terms of a mindset?
Right.
And kind of what's life been like after partnering with Amulet? And kind of, I guess last, what would you advise other sellers before they partner with private equity?
Yeah. Well, first I thought I probably was naive to all of the additions, maybe even the benefits of partnering private equity. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a boogeyman phenomenon out there with owners and, various founders that there's a bad rep. I found it to be an amazing partnership and has really unlocked tremendous value. But the mindset was, we're about 55, 60 people. Yeah. We saw, to your point, we saw these adjacent areas as, places we can move into. The organic model of hiring and then expanding and proving ourselves out is, it's heavy. And also it takes like 6 and 12 and 18-month cycles. And we were wondering, Jordan, if we could mash up like clinical, translational, these other core functions of the biotech space, regulatory, if we put them together, would there be an acceleration amongst the parts? Given we're using this athletic principle of quasi-employee settings, would the multiple pieces expedite the success of the model? So we were up against it, like organic growth, and we were doing great, 20% year-over-year growth, but the functions, expanding our breadth in terms of what we could deliver, that's what was taking, generations of projects, iterations of years to, hey, how do we develop the competency? How do we integrate it with the other functions? So we thought maybe inorganically we can acquire some of those fully formed, and then we would be using these athletic principles to create intersection points and create integration points. Instead of having to build and integrate, we would just integrate to things that were moving. And we thought the pieces would come together in the field, and they did. And we wouldn't have gotten there without private equity.
How many companies have you partnered with since Amulet invested?
We've acquired 2 other organizations, a safety organization and a very large and well credentialized global regulatory organization. That's really changed the footprint of the company.
Yeah. So you were at like 65 people
50.
when you partner
Yeah.
with Amulet, and now you're
Yep.
at 300?
We have about 220 employees and about 100 people in the field that are recurring, either independents or consultants that work with us frequently. But we have a big family out there.
What have been some of the other kind of levers of growth? One is through acquisition and expanding the customer base and the service line headcount. But like, what have been some of the other levers of growth? Like, how did you rethink pricing? How did you rethink the services that you are delivering?
Yeah. Well, that theory of, and I bet you're thinking about these pieces, your business. I bet all our
Yeah,
contemporary are
I mean,
these
for
things that are
context, yeah, I
right.
mean, for context for the audience here, we've been around since 2019, and right now we're at 7 people full time, and we're like, how do we double sales within the next year? Because we know this is a huge opportunity to create a one-stop shop for private equity marketing, and that's if you look at just private equity, just a brand video, we'll call it a $25,000 brand video. There are 5,000 or so funded private equity firms, and less than 10% have any video. So that's one video, one price,
Right.
one customer, and we have full service offering. So we're like, how do we figure out where to go? And I don't know if you want to just go into therapy here for us, or maybe that might be more productive for the audience. But yeah, I mean, talk us through kind of how you've evolved with those type of decisions.
I've advised many other businesses on like go-to-market strategy. I didn't have a chance to talk about this, but ran an incubator for a while, so I was doing nothing but poke at go-to-market. And in those domains, would look at, like, some of this is going to sound just hackneyed, like trite feedback, but we have to think about the things we're building and whether they're distractions from the things that are making revenue from us, or they're accretive. And then, I can't speak to your business as well. We've just met each other, but in the, what we were just describing about SSI, the idea of clinical next to medical is like, it's an adjacency. It's so obviously connected. And I think the mistake that some entrepreneurs make is they try to run 4 businesses to double in size, instead of running one business with a core go-to-market and then 3 adjacent offerings that add value. And then we look for harmonization. Does it distract the sales team? How about the invoicing process? How about the sponsor and buyer array? Are we economizing on who we sell to and who we deliver to? Or are we adding different modalities of engagement, different, run rates and revenue cycles, different buying patterns of seasonality? And people underthink that all the time. So if I were reverse engineering it, I'd say, hey, what footprint do we have? What are we doing great? And then I'd soft circle, like, I'd put on the board, 2 or 3 targets for the future. We want to be this thing. And it's more like a constellation at this point. And so now we have our North Star for like 3 to 5 years out. And in our case, we wanted to be involved in enterprise value of biotech companies. We want to be so valuable to our client partners that our team can be indispensable and can be an asset to them to de-risk their go-to-market, help them achieve their targets, to get, safely get drugs to patients that need them, right? And be invaluable in that process. So that kind of, that target then helped us kind of look at the 2 or 3 things we were doing and say, okay, like, what is naturally adjacent to what we're doing that doesn't violate scale, invoicing, buy cycle, sponsor, that we can do that would be similar to what we do now, but maybe a new challenge? Is it, and this is more than just a technical challenge. These are different buyers, and there are different, delivery things that need to be done to deliver against what we're doing, but it wouldn't break the company. And I think entrepreneurs underthink that break the company thing quite a bit. And what they don't realize is they're actually running 3 different businesses to double their sales. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, as I think about that with kind of a live example of what we're wrestling with, if you look at the scope of marketing services, we started off with LinkedIn profiles, LinkedIn content, and then clients asked us to do video. And that was 6 years ago.
Right.
Now video is probably 25 to 50% of our sales in a given quarter. But in between doing a AGM video like we did for Amulet where we met you,
Right.
how do you have that stickiness of the relationship? Well,
Right.
it's the content strategy with LinkedIn, which we don't do anything besides video for Amulet for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Now that's our highest priced product, highest gross margin, but there's not that stickiness.
Yeah.
And there's also that risk of just being the one trick pony in video. I mean, we're really good at that trick, but it's just one thing. It doesn't give me a reason to contact the person in between. Now, as I'm thinking aloud about this, we have another client. That spun out of a big pharma, a couple billion under management, and we've done 3 years of their videos, which is also the highest priced, highest margin, but we don't talk to them at all except for once a year.
Right.
So should the model be a whole bunch of these, which like these types of videos, like number one, we love them. We're good at them.
Yeah.
And it allows us to go deeper in a client. But should our strategy be the one-stop shop? Because that's what the market needs.
Well,
the market needs,
we're getting a little bit into this. Let's do it. So, all right. So
I'm sorry for talking about us.
You're calling to me, Jordan, 51 labs, and we've got these high value, one and done type scenarios, and then not a recall, a need to talk to that client again. Episodic sales, right? Episodic. That's what you got. And it's probably tied to some event. That's a great business because anytime the event happens, they're calling you, right? But it's not scalable in the form of revenue, of sustainable incremental revenue curation. You also can't control the upside of your revenue model to, grow additional employees and new capabilities. It's got that limitation, right? So first thing I would do is XY access this and go up into the right and say, what are some of the permutations of 51 labs? If you were designing what your passion and your heart said the company should be, are we moving into value creation opportunities for these organizations? Like right now, you are providing them value in the way they want it to be consumed. How about the way you guys think it should be consumed? Like what else can you do for them that drives value for them that they're not asking for right now? The hockey puck analogy. But anyway, that would be one of our
because they don't know what they don't know about marketing, because when you look at the maturity of private equity market, it's a very early stage. And I would say truly a handful of firms have one true marketer at the firm. And when you look at the lower middle market, call it, less than $1 billion fund or under management, like there's nobody.
Makes sense to me.
I count on my hand.
I could like 2 or 3 business theses right now that we could test, right? Like if that's the case, right? And the middle market's missing this piece. I mean, look at us too. We happen to have some support in these regards, but how about creating, figuring out what video needs? And I would imagine all of your clients have different notionality about what video they might use for go-to-market concepts, for sales.
Yeah, when you look at the
unlocking value in their recently, added private equity business unit, right? There's I would call that a tier. There's a whole tier of no-brainer things that could be added, but that's still not our North Star. Our North Star should be a Jordan wants 51 labs to be, trading on creating value that is sharing with his clients, and an upside that's not tied to a project environment, but rather the value you're delivering to them.
Well, now we're getting on a much more important thing is now we're talking about something equally, actually, never mind, a whole lot more important, because so let's just go with let's go with the hypothesis that the market needs a one-stop shop for private equity marketing, because I don't want to go to this firm for my $75,000 website and branding, and this firm for my video, and this firm for my LinkedIn content, this firm for my paid marketing. Like I all want it in one firm. So that's just private equity. So now the thing that we've also been wrestling with is one of our clients said to us on a project update meeting, hey, by the way, that LinkedIn post that you did a few months back, that led to us writing a $25 million check.
Right.
Because a executive that we hadn't been in contact with for over 5 years, just reached out because he saw a post.
Believe it.
So how do we not charge 50 to 100,000 for projects? How do we develop an economic model that shares in that upside as a firm? And equally important, how do we make sure to incentivize our team that they share in that upside beyond base and cash bonus?
Yeah, you're getting into things that we are experimenting with in the field right now. So a couple things. First, maybe closing out the pricing strategy. Obviously, if we can evoke influence through our client's channel, like you're suggesting, your video produced a call, on a former client, a former qual, a farming type outcome like that. Clearly, there are firms that set up those types of campaigns, and you can track a clearing system, make sure that you're accreting value, being accredited the appropriate value, and we can create a value based delivery model there. I'm entertaining some of those right now, third parties. If you can introduce me to these organizations and we sell work, some of it's a thought fee basis, but an upside model I would entertain as a buyer. So anyway, that market's there. I would just say, go through the door you're fearful of, ask the hard questions of some of those same organizations. The hard parts are going to be figuring out what was your team's work versus what they did organically or would have done anyway. And I would just say CEOs and leaders are generally, for someone that's accreting value for them, even if it's not perfectly disciplined, there's a general willingness to explore a positive relationship and maybe even some ambiguity on a fee model if it's generating value. So, and then there's a virtuous cycle to doing that for one entity that can then be brought to multiple other entities, as in you've got a qual or two. Now you can make a case, your confidence is higher, stronger ask with the client, the client organization, because you can draw more direct causal data to say, this is what we will produce. And when you produce it, those are going to be happy clients. Those are going to be happy organizations. So there's a virtuous circle there that we would probably need to explore. But we never finished out the targeting. We have some work to do there still, but let's stay on point. Asking CEOs for value and or equity in when you can change enterprise value is a viable business model. Also, probably the subject of its own podcast sometime.
Let's dive deep into how you're thinking about the equity model and having the team share in that upside.
Sure. Yep, we'll do. Sorry. Restate that question.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you are approaching an equity model for the team? Because if we are selling higher priced projects and more valuable projects to our client, we want our team to share in that upside, which is great for hiring and great for retention.
Yeah, I've been trading in different forms of equity agreements and partnering models for 25 years, and lots of heartache and frankly missteps that I've made and we've made. But we've got it now. We're in a better rhythm now. And what we've learned is, if you can substantiate to a client that you can generate value and de-risk outcomes, which is really the job of the executive team and the board. If you can demonstrate value to ability to do that, an equity grant or equity grants are feasible. Secondarily, you asked how have we thought about that from a teaming perspective. We have set up a corporate vehicle by which the entire employee base is benefiting for any of the equity grants we have in this company. We actually invest in client partners, and we have performance grants, which means if we perform and achieve outcomes in the market, we receive equity grants. This is not every client. These are some of our best partners.
Yeah.
That said, we have both of those vehicles, and the whole intent of establishing that is to deliver value to our employees in a portfolio effect of the success we have in the marketplace. It's, $150,000 in legal work. There's a lot of other, I could tell you 6 months of back and forth on creating these agreements and how to tie it out to active employees and what to do when someone leaves. There's a lot of like heartache in the process, but we did it. We spent a good amount of money to develop it, but we thought it would be a huge asset to our team. And philosophically, we wanted to reward the people here that are making this company great.
What do you think motivates people at the earlier stage in their career?
Yeah, I feel like that group is like putting a premium on good experience over longitudinal ties. I mean, that's my feel for the average person these days. Like they want to make sure they're in the learning environment. I think, they're coming in with the perception that they're going to be making moves in their career, that they're going to move homes 2 or 3 times. It's not the way I used to think back in the day. But so they're looking for experiential journey that's valuable, challenging. These are aspirational people, the kinds of people we hire, at least, are looking for challenges over, some of this other stuff you and I are thinking about as
Yeah.
leaders. That less, they're putting, I've learned granting equity to people before they even like, technically earn the hard knocks part actually devalues it a bit. I've actually been a little disappointed in some of the sacrifices that I've made for colleagues and have them not really, treasure it the way I thought the experience would go.
Mm.
Maybe I romanticized it a bit myself, and it was like, oh, this is nice, that kind of response,
Yeah.
and for receiving it. So yeah, it's a good question, and I'd love your thoughts on it.
Well, for us, I don't think that at this stage, because we're not looking at selling in the near future for what we're trying to build, but I think that they're more motivated by. I think that people early in their careers are more motivated by diversity of experience, that they want autonomy. Uh, I, I fight the purpose hypothesis because I don't think that you discover purpose and passion until you've had enough reps in different gyms in different locations to be
Okay.
like, oh, that's what I actually like. Um, but I think that they want the variety and exposure. Um, and like one of our colleagues who was on the set with you, like that was literally her first video shoot. But we did so much training before that to get that person ready. And I think that's valuable. I think they want that as opposed to like, hey, can you just sit in your cubicle for 2 years and just do press releases?
Yeah.
And then once your client ready and you're senior, then you can go off and do that.
Yeah, she was amazing, by the way. But I agree with everything you said there. There is a way of delivering economic value to employees that is not the core entity, like not 51 labs, but rather the clients of 51 labs and other parties you support, and creating a portfolio of that and offering that to an employee base is a very powerful thing, even for junior colleagues.
Hmm.
Even though I just said, talked out both sides of my mouth there, some of the junior colleagues undervalue it. I think in 20 years they'd look back on the situation differently than
Yeah.
they do today, but it's still valuable. So, but there's ways of doing that, and obviously, another day we could talk about
Yeah.
going to market after some of that stuff.
Well, what's on, you talked about something earlier. Um, what is, what is a door that you were afraid to open up and go into? And can you walk us through that experience?
This is one like a subject of like head hits the pillow, maybe like the movie that you're writing about yourself. Sometimes I like to be the first person through a wall. Like I don't want to ask my colleagues to go do something that I'm not willing to do, even if it's first. I've really never said this to many people. Maybe the president of the company knows this about me, or like this is what I think. At least I hope it rings true to my colleagues. But yeah, walls are, can I deliver value against this? Can we change the game on the way we service this client? Can we penetrate the C-level and explain why we're better than vendors 50 times our size? Can we offer a whole new service delivery model that no one's ever done before? Can we be a first to market offering in these new ways? Like, how do we now test enterprise value attribution instead of project value? Like, don't ask other people to go do those things and figure it out. Go knock down 2 of them and then train someone on the third. Now you've done your job as, knocking down that wall. So yeah, I want to take the scary things down and try to make it work, and then build a team around it.
What is one of the earlier weaknesses you had as a leader that was painful and took time to really develop? And I'm
So
asking that because right now it seems like literally in the past 60 days, the complexity of the business has gone up exponentially. And sometimes I'll spend a whole day, I'm like, what did I just do?
right.
And so,
So many. Sorry, please finish. Sorry,
yeah,
Jordan.
so I feel like for me, I'm just playing whack a mole every single day as opposed to being thoughtful and intentional.
Yeah.
So what have you found is like some of the biggest areas that you were weak at, but you truly developed over time?
Still weak at some of them and have to get better, and some of these haunt me to this day, but, delegation, trading money for time, we should be more thoughtful about outsourcing the things that we're not good at, like self-awareness of the things that I can machinate on. Like I'll spend too much time on an email. Really, how, how much value is in getting that email perfect and making sure it's right, even for internal things. So undue amounts of time on things that don't have the right yield and not delegating that to someone, get it mostly right. Like if we're going for scale and growth, I think where I failed, you have to be more thoughtful about the things you invest your time in and the things you allow to become like idiosyncratic. I have to do this because my colleagues can't do it for me. And you don't have that 80-20 rule. And that's, oh my God. I mean, there's probably years that have been misspent on this basis where I should have been delegating things to other people. So that's a big one. I think for many, like we should be thinking, and you should be thinking, how do I trade, like maybe spend the first 5% of an activity with someone, let them go work, maybe 10, let them go work and come back and refine things at the back end. How do you do that over and over again? That's what you should be doing as a CEO. So give them the initial thesis, outsource execution and come back for recalibration with the company. That's what I've learned. And I'm still not great at it. I do my best with it. Like put color on it, go marching orders, go get it done, and then help them deploy it. Like whatever the it is, that I think that's the secret to being a good CEO and leader is what to delegate.
What does your calendar look like in a given day?
I am a mess, Jordan. I am a wire to wire. My friend Donna has me running from 8:30 to 6 p.m. I barely have bathroom breaks. I turn my camera off to throw food down my throat during a half-hour working meeting somewhere.
Yeah,
Sometimes I get a half hour.
I'm the same way, and it's just a zebra calendar. And I get to the end of the day, it's like, did I do anything productive? So how did and I mean, you're 10 times more, 100 times more further along down the road than I am, but like in in the growth of your company, but like what should our calendar look like?
Oh my God. I feel like you should be coaching me. Um,
I
yeah,
got
no,
questions. I don't have any answers.
I feel like the more important question is the other one you asked. Like, did we have an impact? I often, and I do this once a week or so. Like I'll sometimes walk out of the office when I have one of those 15-minute breaks or something. And I'll be like, it's a 6 up, 3 down day. And everyone around here knows what that means. I won 6 things. I lost 3 things. There are 3 and 6 days too. Anyway, they know what it means, but I'll laugh about it. But I think the question you posited is that are you setting up your calendar? And it's a victim to the prior thing we just talked about, to have an impact on the business. And if you are machinating on things, like have little to no value, and that's not even a mark on the board. That's not a win or a loss. That's going sideways. So you should be looking. Did I have a 4 and 2 day today? I had a 2 and 1 day today, and then I had 6 empty hours of things that really did not change the company, which would be evidence that we haven't done this 10%, 80%, 10% rule.
Yeah, and as I'm thinking about, what's slowing us down, the number one thing that's slowing our company down is me. And me, by that I mean my number one job should be 50 to 75% sales and marketing for at the stage that we're at. But we get onto a project and I have to go back into execution to do mid-level review. And so we're like, oh, we need to hire a true mid-level and pay up for that.
That's it.
And you know what? If we have to rip off the Band-Aid, meaning that for a week or so, some projects go off or whatever, like the Band-Aid has to be ripped off, or on sales, have to rip it off. We got to hire a mid-level, because then we're just going to do the same vicious cycle.
Yeah. If you are hard charging toward that true north and you knew where you needed to get this in a year, these would be fait accompli decisions that you have to make anyway. And you wouldn't be debating whether you need to do it or not. So, yep, I think there's all ties to everything we've talked about, the targeting, the adjacency, like things that are close enough that don't break the model, and then getting time back by delegating. Have to do it. And you were right, like we are the constraint of the business, and I'm a terrible one right now, so gotta figure some stuff out.
If you were to 80/20 your personal growth, your management, your skills as a leader and a manager, what does that version of Doug look like 3 years from now?
I hope to be advising on go-to-market on the scale that someone else is implementing. Although, I'll play a role in it. Now I'm the operator. Now I kill what I eat. I do that, break through the wall. I would like to be determining what walls to break through, helping with some early ideation and maybe early market trial, and then staying away from the operationalization that takes place after that phase, and then think about the longer term growth trajectory after we have a circle in the market. That would be ideal. So it's kind of like, now it's execution of the things. We're knocking walls down. We're running in the room. We're making little homes, and we're building a value center. Though I wouldn't mind missing those steps in the future.
Yeah.
And someone else be that author, that'd be great.
Any particular books that have really influenced the way you think about life and in career and work?
This is so embarrassing, Jordan. I never read books. I haven't read a book. This is terrible. I should be shot and summarily fired. I hope Amulet doesn't see it. I haven't read a book in 15 years. I have done, of course, like book synopsis here and there. Good to great.
I got a lot of books. I'm not saying I read them, or if I listen to them, it might be 10% in here, 20% there.
No, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not gonna be duplicitous.
How do you
down to read a book? I don't relax on vacations. The whole thing, it's a mess. I'm always banging on an idea. I'm always thinking through how I can help the team, help the company, help the fiduciary roles that I have, all those things.
There we go. I think this is the part one.
Well, that was fun. I really enjoyed
We'd love to have you on again and dive deep into employee comp and incentive plans. That might be the episode too.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Be well, pal.